Hello, Mechwarriors, and welcome to the Mech Bay, where we fix your mech and fix your game. What's going on, Mechwarriors? I'm your host, Josh. I've got my co-host, Lore Master Denim, with me today.
Howdy, howdy.
And Stabbing Steve, the only man to bring both Loki and Des together on a manhunt.
They can't know I'm here.
And we are the Mech Bay Podcast, your number one source for all things casual to competitive tabletop battletech. And today's episode is sponsored by our two newest patrons, Mechwarrior DJ Skinny and Mechwarrior Valen. So thank you. And wait. Is there a fourth person in the command cockpit today?
Hi there.
My gosh, it's Mr. Jeff Campbell, better known as Tweezer on the MRC Command Discord. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing excellent. Thank you, gentlemen, for having me on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I had to because technically none of us rolled dice at the last major event, and it felt wrong to not have anyone that didn't roll dice. Like,
I'm just here to steal all the industrial secrets. You know, it's just an industrial espionage mission.
That's true. How is the secret sauce made?
I appreciate you being so upfront about that. It does make our organization a lot easier. I will lead you to the proper rooms at first, so you know.
Okay, thank you.
Right?
Yeah, no problem.
All the keys
we are
like,
here to serve.
All the keys are biometric open, so like you can lock them to yourself. Like, please take me, free me. Anyways, let's get some hobby news, hobby progress, games played, fan mail out of the way, because we got a fun episode in us tonight talking about some Motor City. But first, I think the big thing on everyone's mind is the day after we released the last episode, CGL announced that it has bought Ironwind Metals. What are our thoughts on that? Like, I don't want to say it was out of left field, but a lot of us didn't expect it. So we're just going to keep this one short. Do we think it's positive? Do we think it's negative? Or do we see like conflicts of interest or anything like that? Steve?
I think this is great, truthfully. I know Mike has had some, family issues at home. His wife is very sick, and it's good that CGL has gone ahead, stepped in and taken over the business so that he can spend, some time at home with what's important. And honestly, the fact that we've got a lot more in-house for CGL, I think is a great opportunity. And, I've heard some grumblings that people were concerned that they would discontinue, metal production, but I don't see that going anywhere. And I'm excited. I'm excited to see what they do with it.
What about you, Denim?
I totally agree with Steve. I don't see any real downsides to this. I don't have any like great secrets from behind the scenes or anything, but I can't see it changing anything for us as users. It just makes it more convenient for Catalyst. So I think, yeah, in all, it's going to be a good thing.
Jeff, do you have thoughts on this one?
I agree. I think it's going to be good. I am pretty sure at one point in time, FASA owned Ralpartha, the precursor to Ironwind. And I actually was at Ironwind Metals a couple days ago on my way up to Motor City. Talked with Red and a few of the others. They seemed really positive about it. So I think it's a good thing all around.
All right, Josh, you have to disagree now. Don't
No,
be like us. Don't
no.
be a sheep.
Contractually obligated to have bad feelings.
No, I mean, my first thought was, that's great, because it's very hard for like the mom and pop shop to innovate because everything's got so much risk. And this is just like a second pot of income and direction and management and like things that they can bounce off. I mean, Catalyst and Ironwinds already have a very tight partnership. This just means a lot of that, what could have been a handshake deal before, or like, hey, can we work on this? Or let's do this. Like when we were at Ironwinds, they had an entire room dedicated to resin, like casting and printing, and that was unused. Like they were like, we don't have the time or manpower to put into this. And it's like, hey, now we might get some more direction. Like, hey, spend some time working on this. Let's not just maintain the status quo. Let's spend a little bit to upgrade, because CGL's been working on upgrading things lately.
Catalyst is going to have to put some money into infrastructure, so we'll see how that goes.
Oh yeah, I mean, that was the big thing. It's like it is just a warehouse.
I think it's also technically a foundry.
Yes, it is a foundry.
I mean,
they
make
pour
stuff.
metal.
one small section is foundry. The rest of it is warehouse. It does. But yeah, I'd hate to be the fire inspector for that place.
No, look,
Now, I will say, I don't know if it was a change because of the CGL bot, but the warehouse pricing actually did go up, like $10 a pound.
it's good to know.
Yeah.
As long as they still let us look around and grab stuff, I don't necessarily mind. I mean, I know with all the tariffs and everything else going on, we have to anticipate prices going up at some point. I wonder if that was coincidental or CGL, kind of did that as a first order. But by the way, $10 a pound. I mean, we're talking pounds.
Yeah.
That's not a crazy increase.
Remember, we
They also
got
had a
2
lot more
pounds
stock.
when we were there. Oh, that's good. Yeah. So, no, I think we can move to the next part. The Iron Cheetah and Mad Cat Ace have been coming out from Iron Wind medals. Denim, have you gotten your medal official Mad Cat A yet?
Nope, it has not arrived yet.
But you did order it.
I'm pretty sure it was on that order. I cannot see me not putting on there. It's been in my cart since it first was available. So I'm going to say yes, I ordered it. I'll have to go check. But yeah, I got some stuff coming.
Just making sure. Did Jeff, Steve, did you all get Iron Cheetahs or Mad Cats?
Not from Iron Winds, no. I did get other metal, but that's for the hobby progress section.
Killing me, man. The only part of that I do have is apparently there is right now a mix-up involving the Iron Cheetah Prime showing up in packaging labeled as the Iron Cheetah L variant, and that's a little weird because I didn't think there was an Iron Cheetah L, but here we are. It's at least
Curious.
Yeah, you get what's in the box. It's just labeled, so who knows?
Maybe a misprint on the card. They decided to use them anyway. I don't know.
Yeah, that's the only thing. Because when we were there, they were waiting on a part for the Iron Cheetah, but I didn't think it was like a special Iron Wind metal variant that hadn't been released or anything. So that's all I can think. But La Alchemist brought that to my attention. I was like, oh, that is a thing. So everyone's wondering. That's it for news. Let's get to some hobby progress. Steve, you had a tournament to run, but did you put paint to models? Paint to plastic?
I have actually, in an attempt to do something relaxing. I hated it. I'm working on a new paint scheme for a new faction, and it did not go very well.
Is this the special project that you talked about several episodes ago and that you refused to tell anyone about?
Yes, double secret probation project, and it's just I'm having a hard time with the color. It's giving me a lot of issues, and I'm testing out like sponge painting now, trying to get smoother layers. That's been kind of exciting and fun, but not necessarily successful.
What color is the secret project?
Is this another bird-based faction that we're talking about? What is this?
Look, we're just going to remain absolutely silent.
Is there another bird-based faction that he doesn't play? Let's all go through the logos in our head.
What are called? Snow Ravens, I believe.
Oh my gosh, you're right. There is another bird faction.
So maybe we'll find out when I figure out how to do the painting. We'll figure it out.
He starts talking about feathers. We'll know that's what it is.
That's
right.
True.
But no, other than that, most of my hobby progress has been ordering swag, making swag. I made 72 glasses, 72 acid etched pub glasses that I made by hand for swag for the
71.
event.
That is hobby progress.
I bought 72 glasses, but someone only sent me 71 stencils, Denim. Isn't that curious?
It is curious. I wonder where that 70-second stencil could have possibly gone. I don't know.
Probably in your kitchen.
Maybe. I'll never tell.
But no, it was a lot. We spent a lot of time. I ordered a bunch of custom embroidered beanies that Jeff is now sporting in our audio only format. But other acquisitions, Jason Hansa actually helped me out quite a bit. And he picked up an Iron Man Metals Trebuchet and Catapult, which are going to be used for my Castle Crashers. So now all my Castle Crashers are in pewter, which is exciting. So I got to assemble those when I have time again, which will be never. But that's it for me. Denim?
Yeah, in my efforts to find a really nice blue that I like for my mercenary unit, I have picked up these play markers. They're like paint pens. Another shade of blue, something that I hope is going to make painting a decent quantity of minis quickly. Not looking for perfection. The things I've seen online, it looks pretty cool. So I am. I've just primed a bunch of stuff and I'm ready to start painting. So I will let you guys know how it turns out. But yeah, I bought a bunch of these things. They should be fun.
I've always been nervous to use paint pens on minis, mostly because, I've never used one before, so maybe I'm dead wrong, but it always seems like if I'm trying to color on something that has a bunch of little greebles, it's just going to tear up the tip of the pen and then it's just going to ooze everywhere.
It's not that kind of pen tip. It's more of a brush tip. I'll send you a video.
I imagine it's like a marker.
It's going to be interesting.
Like
and
grade.
Yeah, I mean, look, if they suck, they're not that expensive, so I didn't waste a lot of money. And if we're talking about, oh no, I'll ruin a mini, one of my 5,000 unpainted miniatures. Oh no,
Fair.
I've got 3
That's
more
fair.
of that same model. It's okay.
We go to Jeff.
Oh, I've just been, finishing up some DCMS mechs that I took up to Motor City and, submitted them in for the game. I'm just playing with a lot of white Draconis mechs.
Nice. You hand paint the dragon on the left side of them.
I did not have the freehand skills for the dragon. I did do freehand kanji on the bases.
Fantastic.
I remember watching you do those weeks ago on Hobby Night, and I was like, look at him go. He's going to do it. He's going to go all the way. If I remember right, you were like Googling like fun kanji for each fun mech, and you were
yes, I was.
Didn't you do the wrong, like the name of one mech and put it on another? I think Spider was one. Like you put Spider on something else.
No, I did that right, but no, I was like, so for example, my Void Battle Armor, I looked up the kanji for emptiness. And then my 2 melee mechs were named Mark and Jose. For anyone that gets the late 80s Oakland A's reference for the Bash Brothers.
Just like anybody who gets a tattoo of kanji on it, it may or may not say that. So,
so thankfully, I have a friend who is a polyglot and could point me to a place that is actually legitimate. So
it's cool.
Good on you for freehanding. It's hard mentally, not as much physically. Mentally, got to get through. It's going to look bad before it looks good. Speaking of looking bad before it looks good, I went back to my Lyrans last week and I tried a brown because I was like, I want to do something different. And I was like, I settled on the second Buena guard / second alliance guard. And they're essentially brown. And I was like, brown's a hard color to enjoy because there's a lot of like tones, the warmth of the brown versus if it's a dark brown, reddish brown. It's like that's too many variations in brown. And I tried one and then I used a stencil and it came out like Gulf War 90s camo. And I was like, it looks exactly how it feels, but that's not how I want my mechs to look. Like I don't want my mechs to look literally like 90s Gulf War. So I re-airbrushed it brown, and then I did brown, and then I did a like shade. I got some brown wash and put that over it, and that like really toned it down to like the right warmth of brown, but like took the color itself down. So I'm in the experimenting phase, and I'm not normally like happy there. Like normally I like to know what I'm doing first.
Yeah. I'm in the same spot with my stuff, and I hate it. It's frustrating. You spend a bunch of time, and you look at the menu, and you go, wow, this is not what I wanted. And then you throw it in the vat and start again the next day. And it feels like an exercise in frustration. But
yeah,
when you get it right, there's nothing quite like it emotionally.
The problem is this is I want to say 5th time I've painted this Scourge in a test scheme. And I don't strip minis if I don't have to. I just repaint him. He's looking a little thick, boys.
Oh no. Oh.
Yeah. He's still okay. I mean, the airbrush puts on a thin coat, but like 5 airbrush coats is like 2 or 3 regular coats.
He needs
cut the leg off and you count the rings to see how old the mech is.
But yeah, so I'm working on that. But I did just clean my wet palette. I like bleached it and everything, so it is ready to go for a new intense painting session.
I just pulled the pad out and put another one in on my wet palette. Like I'm not bleaching anything.
Mine's spongy, and I hadn't opened it since Bluegrass. But we're moving on to games
you
played.
Guys clean your palettes? I don't clean my palettes. I'm pretty sure it's alive.
Denim.
That green, hold on, that green,
No.
I didn't mix it, I grew it.
I've tried everything. I've tried the, put the penny in it. Nope, the penny just like smushed in the sponge. But we're moving on. We're not going to talk about Josh's moldy sponges that he paints with and then puts in his mouth. Anyways, Denim, you got one game in the last since our episode. What did you do?
Yeah. So this was a mercenaries game.
So we're Talons of the Hiron Hall here.
Yeah. Because I don't get enough of those in. I like it so much, but between campaigns and demo games and teaching people, it's not
hard.
often I get an actual here is a mercenary unit that I made, and this is a real one. So I made my Callisto Crusaders.
Ooh.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I had the Thug 11 EB and the Phoenix Hawk 7K. They came out to exactly 3,000.
Excellent.
Yep. So I like that. The Phoenix Hawk jumps goes 699, so it's nice and mobile. Has that snub nose PPC, and the Thug's got the ER PPCs and the SRM 6s.
That's a nice thug. That's a real nice thug.
All Thugs are nice, and it's just a brawler. It doesn't have an XL engine, so it can take so much damage. It can take a lot of damage before it goes down. It will last forever. So I played against Marcus from Hangar 18.
Mm-hmm.
He got tired of me destroying all of his mechs all the time, so he decided to put all of his points into the Turkina C, the one with the 2 large pulse and the LB-20X, and then some flamers and SRMs and stuff. But so yeah, he got that. It was a 3-4 pilot, but we rolled up objective raid on the lake area map. So a lot of water.
No hands.
Turkina does not have hands. Turkina is slow. It goes 3-5-3. I'm like, dude, it sucks, but this is what tactics is for. So it was the lake area. So it's got like a small mountain on one side and a little tiny hill on the other with some trees, and then just a big lake. And I knew that if he was going to do anything, he had to take infantry, because they've got to load his mech up, because he has to, with objective raid, you have to go to the building, you have to load up a thing, and then you have to get off the map. So he had the Turkina, and then he had 1 hover transport and 1 infantry. If I took that out, game over. I took 2 medium emplacements, and I set them up on my end of the map so that he had to go through a significant amount of fire to get there. And I did leave a nice opening on the side just so he would see it and be like, oh, I can come around because they're not turrets. So with emplacements, you get behind them and you could just destroy them and you're out of the field of fire. So I was tempting him to go around to my left, because if he did that, then he would leave his hover transport unguarded, which was just hiding behind a level 1 hill on the far end. Phoenix Hawk jumps 9. We got no problems. So yeah, we started off. I let him come towards me. I fired some ERPPCs. He fired some large pulses. And then on turn 2, my Phoenix Hawk jumps all the way in the back. He rotates his torso, gets 1 large pulse laser off, hits Phoenix Hawk in the head. That's 10 points of damage. Phoenix Hawk has 9 points. Oh no. Rolls for a crit. Cockpit.
Every time.
So Phoenix Hawk just goes down. There is no skin of the teeth ejection. It was a cockpit crit. It's just gone.
Blake,
very salvageable. My Thug, meanwhile, was just sitting back there with the emplacements, just taking cover over there. So he had a long way to go to get back around there. He was going to take so much fire, but it is a Turkina and it has so much armor. I had the torso that the ammo was in almost to nothing. I think it had 2 points of armor left, and the left leg had 1 point of armor left. And then he hits me in the head with a large pulse laser, does 10 points damage. Oh, rolls a crit. Oh, cockpit. So both mechs go down with no pilots. Very salvageable though. Like they both had armor everywhere except for the head.
I'm sorry.
The commander's like, Callisto Crusaders, we're just going to write that one off and we're going to go somewhere else. I know I owe a lot of people money now, but but I'm not paying it back. So maybe next time.
It was a rental,
right?
Yeah,
it was a rental.
Marcus ended up taking the field, so he got a fully salvaged Phoenix Hawk 7K and Thug, and then he just moved his hover transport in, grabbed a bunch of stuff, and left.
Brutal.
Yeah.
That's rough.
It was one of those games where the tactics on paper, like 10 out of 10 times I would win that. Oh, it's BattleTech. You got those 1 in 36 chance headshots, and then that cockpit crit every time. So a lot of fun.
I'm glad you had fun.
Yep. Congratulations, Marcus. Next time, though, you're going down.
Steve, what about you? Getting any games in? I know prepping for a tournament, prepping to run a tournament interferes.
Yeah, it's a little bit. I got a couple games in. I'm going to talk about one. It was actually an event that we did at our local game shop. We had, Paul. You've met Paul. Denim also knows Paul from
I've played against Paul.
Yeah, Paul's a good guy. I like him.
Paul. Paul's great. Paul ran an event for us called Night of the Cicadas, and it was great. Basically, those players that showed up had no idea what was about to happen. You were hired by some nameless company to come hold and investigate a fortress and just hold it for a little while. Meanwhile, wave after wave of enemy begins to spawn and come off the map. And you end up with, the first wave is like wasps and stingers, and then you get, spiders and something else. I forget. The cicadas come last, right? But the rule is for every wave, whenever an enemy gets a hit, all of their piloting, they all start at 6/6, but every time they get a hit, it goes down by 1 for the gunnery. And every time they pass a PSR, all of them go down by 1 for piloting. So they get collectively better and better and better round after round after round.
Yeah, it's like AI learning. They're all connected.
Yeah, it's like a big machine learning thing. So if you have ECM, you block the data upload to the other units. So you can kind of block one off, kill it, and then its upgrades don't necessarily transfer to the other units. We didn't know this at the time. It was a wild scenario. I had brought the Black Knight 6B, and I tried very hard to shoot things with my PPC at long range, trying to clip them and take them out. I missed a lot. We had a longbow on our team. This guy, he just wanted to shoot things, and he had such a hard time doing it. He kind of stood still most of the game, so he got shot a lot, which means the enemies got very good gunnery very fast. And then after 3 waves of this, it was time to evacuate, and the dropship landed on the other side of the map. So now we're running, but we've got a bunch of assaults, right? We've got a night sky. We have one guy in a wraith who's on the other side of the map. We have one guy who's in, like I mentioned, the longbow. We had what's the other one? It's a night sky, and then there's the other one that I get it confused with all the time. The big wide one, Nightstar.
Yeah,
I can picture it in my head. I just couldn't remember the name. So the bad news is the night sky, piloted by Luke or Kaiser, right over at the MRC. He was trying to melee these cicadas to death, and he gets popped. He can't do it. But we roll skin to the teeth, so the pilot's alive, and now the pilot is on the ground in this planet, and we don't leave anybody behind.
Go Wraith.
The Wraith goes. The Wraith gets capped.
No.
Falls over, ejects. So now we've got 2 pilots on the ground, and we're like, okay, great. We'll send the longbow to go pick them up because the longbow doesn't have lower arm actuators. So the longbow can flip its missile pods and shoot those LRMs backwards as it's being chased by cicadas and other bug mechs. Long story short, we scoop up all the pilots that lost their mechs. We all make it back to the dropship, and we all take off, significantly worse for wear. But no one died, which is great. We didn't have to go back for those pilots, but it wouldn't be the same if we didn't. So Paul ran a great event. We had a ton of fun, and we're probably going to try to do that again sometime because that was just an absolute hoot.
It sounds awesome.
Jeff, what about you? Besides Motor City Mayhem,
aside from 2 practice games for it, I got nothing. But
I mean, give us a practice game.
I'll just kind of repoint people over to the Coolant Pod because I know we'll be talking about our wrap up of Motor City there. So yeah,
okay.
I don't have a whole lot to report on that. It was just does this unit work? Yes. Does it work the way I think it does? Not quite, but I'll make it work.
But you were locked in for your faction and everything, so.
Oh yeah, I was locked in like a month ago. I submitted it at least at least a month before I played a game with it. I was like, okay, I hope this works.
It was much appreciated. I love having lists early. I can check them early. Gives me lots of extra time. Thank you, Jeff.
You're welcome.
But no, for everyone who's listening, yes, Jeff is one of the hosts of the Cool and Pod podcast. You can listen to their full game-by-game breakdown of Motor City Mayhem on their podcast on a future date.
Coming soon.
Coming
TM.
soon to a podcast near you.
Josh, what about you? You get any games in?
But I got 2 games in. My first one was against Jeff, also known as Saracens FTW on the Discord. It was a good game. We decided to come out of the gate and just like hop right into a scale 2. So I was like, let's try what scale 2 is starting there rather than going through the scale 1, because scale 1 can be a little growing pains. Like you can lose 2 pilots to 2 lucky cockpit hits and like all that backstory you just wrote up. Like might as well put it in the shredder. Some people like that. Some people are like, well, I want a more normal-ish game of BattleTech. So
now, Josh, did you make a mercenary unit for this, or did you just use the construction rules for scale 2 and just play a regular battle? Because I've done that before, but I don't know if you made an actual mercenary unit or you just said, hey, let's bring 6,000 points and use BSPs.
We built an actual mercenary unit. Mine was like, okay, I'm going to follow the book. I get from what Hinterlands say, you start at scale 2 and you just get the 2 normal pilot upgrades. Like that's it. There's not a whole lot of like, you get this many BSP. It's like, nope, scale 2, this many BSP like normal, and you get your 2 pilot upgrades. Like you essentially just skip scale 1 altogether.
Yeah, so you take 6,000 BV, you take 64 BSP, and all your money multipliers are twice.
Exactly. So I forget exactly which mission, but it was the one where I had to like destroy things of his, like turrets or something. So I took a Goddard Damarung with the Fairlam armor. So I want to say the 20C, because I've fallen in love with the weird torso
Those
cockpit.
are fun.
Yeah. The Hollander, the heavy Gauss rifle one, the Bushwhacker with plasma rifle. I want to say the X4, and then a Razorback, because I was feeling some old Mech Commander 2 vibes. I was like, Bushwhacker, Razorback, let's get the gang back together. I admit, I've messaged Jeff. I was like, hey, I completely forgot what you took. And he was like, me too. And I was like, because we were just so focused on playing. I know he had, I want to say like a Thunderbolt or something, but that game did not go well for me. We roll. I essentially like come on as like a flanking action. The problem is no matter how many shots I do into his objectives, they do not destroy. Like I could not roll the destroy checks. Like need a 10. I was like, cool. I get a 9. It's like glad to great. So it's like next turn, 1 below it. Next turn, I'm 1 below it. It's like starting to get real frustrated with these. Hey, you can put 1,000 damage in, but as long you have to roll like the number that it needs. I was like, this is rough.
That's only for a couple turns, isn't it? Is it only 3 turns?
No, if you put 1,000 damage into it, it's just dead.
If I do 1,000 damage, how about
because you know, like 8, you need 8 to trigger it. Then at 11, it goes down by 1. 21, 31, 41. Each one goes down by 1. Yeah.
But my list could not do that much damage to the thing a turn to get a guaranteed destroy chart.
Right.
So I was struggling, especially as my stuff dying. My Goddard Damarung like stood tall and got ready to fight, and he crit the leg, and I was like, Pharaoh Lamb ain't gonna help with that. So he goes down. The Hollander like stands tall and it's like, I'm gonna put heavy Gauss rifle rounds into you, and I hit him, and then he jumped behind me and put like a bunch of lasers through the rear of the Hollander, like donutted it. I was like, oh no. Bushwhacker ran, overheated, slowly died, and then my Razorback was the last one alive and just was like, nope, I think this be it, son. So
time to go.
Yeah, that was a rough one. With Goddard Damarung, it puts all of its weight, like all of its tonnage and structure, into its fancy armors and stuff. Like it does not. It's 4 medium lasers, or it is 5 medium lasers, like at point blank. Like that's all it can do. Like, So yeah, starting at scale 2, weird, but I could see some bonuses / positives to that, because you get to play with like 4 mechs at 6K. I could also see some negatives where it's like, hey, I'm a 4 or 5, and I'd really love to upgrade like a few of these guys piloting. It's like,
Yeah. I too have gone straight into one just to see, because I wanted to see how 6K mechs with that much BV or BSP would work, which was a lot of fun. But organically, if you're going to go to scale 2, then you already have like 9 or 10,000 BV, so that you have backups, because at that scale you're going to need them, especially if you've got multi-contract months. Like you can't do scale 2 with exactly 6K. It's just not feasible.
Yeah, that's what I've encountered in my regular campaign. It's like, if I lose 1, then I'm back down to scale 1, but I'm locked in for the contract, essentially. But yeah, and then my second game, I'm going to put this down as my worst game of BattleTech ever, and it's purely, yeah.
It's a bold claim.
It's a bold claim. So because we did the scale 2, I was like, okay, so let me start this at scale 1 and work its way up. And we've got a local mercenaries league, and they're just playing hinterlands just straight out of the book. No gymming, and the only thing is, like, you just get paired with an opponent. Like, you two sign up for this contract and you just play each other. I was like, okay, cool. Let me do that. And they were like, hey, just start a new mercenary thing. I was like, okay, I won't take the natural disasters in. That's fine. I've done some like homebrewing-ish kind of stuff for them, so that's okay. So I take that Goddardam Rung, just the regular variant with heavy fibrous, no clan armor, and then a stiletto 6S. So I got 2 hands on both mechs. I've got some cool tech around. Like, this is great. And my opponent is assigned the same other person playing the Alina contract with the the free Jade Falcon Mech Factory rating.
Yep.
Yeah. I was like, well, I haven't played this one for natural disasters, so this is great. And my opponent, Joe, he had already played 2 months of this mercenary campaign. So he's already done 2 full contracts. So he's got a big roster of mechs. He's already done all of his pilot upgrades. So I was like, okay, cool. I can see how like internal scale 1 balancing works. And so I give both of my 3-4 pilot upgrades to the Goddardam Rung, because it's got a small cockpit, it's horse mounted, so it needs the gunnery, it needs the PSR. Stiletto's just there to run. He's got a 3-4 Griffin 4R and a 3-3 Battlemaster 4C. And I was like, okay, that's not too bad. And he's like, and then I've got Jumping Jack on the Griffin 4R. And I'm like, that's
rough, buddy.
That's rough. And I'm like,
it's completely balanced.
And he was like, okay, so I have Jumping Jack, which counts as one upgrade. Like, upgrading my piloting by 1 is the same as what Jumping Jack's worth. And I was like, it don't feel that way. And he's like, yeah, but it's okay, because it's not like a pulse boat. And I was like, but you're jumping 9 hexes.
I mean, it's exactly like giving all of your weapons pulse, because it's a -2 when you jump.
Exactly. And I was like,
so it actually is.
Yeah. So that game, we rolled the map and everything, and it was the like objective raid on the hill, and he gets places buildings and he places them at the end of the hill. And I was like, okay, it's like Normandy. I got to run uphill and get it. Like, but I was like, but at least I got both arms for both mechs. I do. My stiletto runs. I do some sweet, like, okay, if I move here, he can't see me, he can't do anything. And then I start losing initiative every turn. He's like, cool. I move the stiletto. He jumps 9 hexes and kicks the stiletto. I move 9 hexes. He kicks the stiletto. Somehow, Blake's will, the stiletto stays standing until he kicks the leg off. But every turn, it's like, And the Goddardam Rung is just trying to buy time, like, against the Battlemaster. I was like, if I can like get 1 lucky hit on it, he's like, nope, he's got precision ammo because he's traded all of his ammo bins for alternate ammo. He's 3-3, so he's already beating me on every piloting skill upgrade. And it's like, even all of the BSP difference, like from his whole force to mine, I was like, yeah, I get another tank. Like, that was in no way equal to what was happening to me. And I was like, it kind of made me, like, of course I lost. Like, he legged both of my mechs just from, like, you can jump into a specific hex and then kick. Like, it's jumping or being able to kick into a side arc is almost the most powerful thing. Like, I understand that because it's auto hitting one specific leg. So I was like, I don't know if I like non-BV and non-SPA BV things. Like, I understand it's narrative, but like this was the first time where it's like purely random. Like, I'm a brand new and he's done through the whole thing. Like, I've done that, but it's like, okay, we both are the 3-4 pilot and you've got a 3-4 pilot. Like, I can internally balance, and this is just straight out the bag. And the worst part was he was like, I'm a new player. This is like, I've only played like 10 times. It's like, this makes it worse. So I don't know, guys. What are our thoughts on that one? Like,
I mean, it sounds like a rough game. And I guess, did you find out about Jumping Jack after you've already picked BSPs?
Yeah, because it's like,
because that's where, like, if he's doing that, you're like, okay, cool. I'm going to take a bunch of heavy strikes or something like that and try to shoot it out of the sky. So it's not, you can just kind of deal extra damage to it, maybe knock it down.
I mean, it's
that's a good tactic against that.
Yeah.
I mean, but like, it's like, unfortunately, the SPAs are not balanced or costed well. So until those get a rework, you just kind of got to play by the honor system, and hopefully people don't do that to you.
Yeah, I think that's my thing. It's like, out of the box, I don't like I've taken 2 of them, and I'm like, one's a reroll, one's cluster hitter. I'm like, even that's still like, okay. I'm throwing MML 7s with +3 to the cluster rolls. Like, that's pretty rough. I'm like, I don't know. Is Hinterlands better without SPAs? Probably. Is Hinterlands better with better BV matching per game? Because I don't think you just get more BSPs would have helped me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone locally, to me, has picked up SPAs for their mercenary units yet. We've all just been, playing with them as is or upgrading other pilots. And we've also been kind of losing pilots here and there. So you just keep putting those upgrades on different pilots and you spend your points that way, right?
Yeah. In our campaign, we use SPAs a lot, like a whole lot.
But that's SPAs for a campaign. It's against a GM. So it's not like you're...
It makes it very obvious that if you're going to be playing with SPAs right now as they are, it should definitely be an optional rule that everybody has to agree on to begin with. They're not balanced at all, period.
Yeah. So I kind of looked back, like went home, like looked at the sunset. It's like, maybe I'm the dick because I take cluster hitter and inspiring commander, but I don't know. So I'm thinking hard, but yeah, of course, the worst part was when he was like, there's only like 4 good ones though to take the SPAs. And I was like, like even a brand new player can optimize. And it's like, yeah. So, but that was my game. So yeah, I lost both of my mechs and he was like, it's okay. I'm not going to salvage them. I was like, nah, man, at that point, like,
just, it's okay, Josh. It's in the past. It can't hurt you anymore.
Exactly. But that's it for Tales from the Hiring Hall. We got a quick fan mail. We got Chris Crazer writes, hey folks, question for you. In this episode, which is the Probable Cause tournament episode back in the day, you mentioned that you wouldn't allow proxies for the classic tournament, but that was just chassis proxies, or are you including the variants too? I ask because it's rather challenging to get the specific variants of the mech, isn't it? Thanks, Chris. And I had to think back because that was a couple of years ago. To us now, what are our thoughts on proxies in tournaments?
I allow them. Look, I mean, the game is designed to be played with bottle caps if necessary. They give you cardboard standees. I'm not going to require WYSIWYG. I think that's ridiculous. I had someone at the tournament just the other day who was going to run a Jenner, and for whatever reason, it did not end up in their bag. And I said, look, pick the next Jenner-sized-ish thing and run with that, because that's what you got to do. Or you can go home at lunch and pick it up if you want to. But, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't change anything. As long as everybody on the table knows what that is supposed to be, you're good. So I don't see why they shouldn't be allowed.
I know for my events, I allow 100% proxies. I know that some tournaments would like you to have the mech that you're bringing, but that's just chassis though. You're not going to have, there is not a mini for every single variant out there. There just isn't. So you can't you'd be restricting yourself way too much. I'll have to go back and listen to whichever episode he's talking about, because I do not remember ever saying
you weren't on that episode. Neither was Steve. It was just me and Dustin.
Oh, okay. Well, that would explain why. I would argue, assuming if it was Dustin, I would 100% argue against not allowing proxies. It's just the game isn't designed for that.
Yeah. This is future Josh talking to past Josh. I will agree. Like, there are Mad Cat equals all variants of the Mad Cat, but then it goes deeper. It's like, would I allow someone to proxy a Mad Cat Mark IV with a plastic Mad Cat, or a Mad Cat Mark II, or Mad Cat Mark III? And it's like, okay, I would say now, yes. Like, those are visually identifiable as Mad Cat-ish. Now, the problem becomes if you're taking multiple Mad Cats and you've got multiple plastic Mad Cats, and it's like, no, make sure if you're proxying or, like that it looks pretty close and you don't have anything that could be possibly misconstrued as something else.
Yeah, for a tournament, I could see that, but for casual play, I don't care at all.
Yeah, this was a tournament episode.
Yeah.
So for a tournament, like a Regent can be proxied as a Hauptmann. Like, as long as it's pretty close, I'm pretty okay.
Yeah, I think as long as it's the same weight class, general same shape and size is fine, right?
Yeah.
Don't go putting down a Kraken to replace a Jenner or something like that,
exactly.
Right? But as long as you're pretty close, you'll be okay.
Yeah, I know. I've used it in like Southern Assault. I was like, the new not Shadowcat. I just used the plastic Shadowcat. And I was like, it looks the same in the art. Tell me, like, there's not a real model for it, so I'm going to use it. So.
Tell me you're a purist, Jeff. Tell me that you only allow WYSIWYG.
Oh, no. I allow painted rocks at my place.
Excellent.
But I mean, most of the tourneys that I've been to that actually are very WYSIWYG on that are really focused on the pictures that they get after it, or they have some kind of a hardcore sponsorship from a publisher. Usually you don't find that with Battletech and CGL, because you go back to the early days, it is designed to be played with bottle caps or rocks, as long as you can clearly define what it is and what the facing is. It's fine.
I think page 28, of the Total Warfare book specifically states that you could use a bottle cap. So according to Catalyst, it is official that they do not care about you bringing WYSIWYG anything to the table.
Just don't bring a commando and call it a cicada, and a cicada and call it a commando.
Yeah. Right, don't do that.
Don't try to proxy to play mind games. That's called psychological warfare. That's forbidden by the Ares Convention. Well, let's take a quick break, and then we'll get into our main subject.
We here at Hildco have a long history of manufacturing some of the inner sphere's finest fusion propulsion jets. From Robinson to New Certus and Detroit to Hesperus 2, our jump jets carry all manner of Mechwarriors skyward. Trust Hildco to elevate your goals and your ambition. Hildco. Going up?
And we are back from Detroit. Insert Detroit music sound button here. I won't, unless, Steve, do you want me to press it? No? Yes?
You have the button, I don't have the button.
For good power. With good... Oh, Lord. Spider-Man.
Did you just mess up a Spider-Man quote?
Look, Spider-Man is my least favorite of all superhero movies. I'm sorry.
I assume we're editing that one.
I won't
Not anymore. The first F-bomb of Mech Bay.
Ship it.
I regret nothing.
Sorry, Sony has to come out with a new one to hold on their license every 2 years. And they came out with Kraven the Hunter and Madam Web. And look, the spider cow has been milk dry. They had to convert the cow to make webbing.
I now want to see that spin-off, Spider Cow.
Yeah.
Just shoots web out of its udders.
They got
It's
Spider
utterly
Pig.
disgusting.
Spider Pig, who is a pig who is a spider bitten by a radioactive pig, by the way, canonically.
Great.
So, Steve, how did Motor City Mayhem go for 2025?
I think it went extremely well. I have gotten an inordinate amount of very positive feedback. I asked for thoughts and emails, just give me some, feedback. And I asked people to email it to me, A, for posterity, B, because by the end of the day, I was absolutely fried. I wasn't going to remember anything. And I've gotten several emails from a lot of people that have been incredibly positive. And they've said, I had someone at the tournament tell me, they said, if I had to choose between Gen Con and Motor City, I would go to Motor City. And I was absolutely blown away by that because in my mind, this is still just some small tournament that I just put on for fun. But I had people come from Rochester, New York. I had people come from Pennsylvania, Colorado. I had people come from Minnesota, North Carolina, Tennessee, Kentucky. I mean, I had people come from everywhere. I was just shocked. I mean, I think it went really, really well. There was only, I think, one kerfuffle that needed to be addressed, but
that's pretty good. I mean,
yeah,
excellent.
Now, Jeff, can you confirm that all this is true? I mean, he could just be tooting his own horn right now.
Well, I mean, now let me tell you what really happened.
There you go.
Just kidding. 10 out of 10 would come back. Came back again this year, and you did put on a very good show. You made it very fun and engaging for everyone in the audience. Everyone that was there to play just had a really good time. You set up a good set of parameters at the beginning just to kind of encourage more of that fun and not necessarily a power gamey atmosphere that people would come and just try to beat the crap out of each other. So I really appreciated it. And even, the games where I was just getting completely curb stomped, I still had a blast.
Well, good. I'm glad to hear that.
So it went well overall. We'll just get the placing and awards out now because, well, Mr. Big TO's here to list them all out, right?
Sure. I'm happy to do that. Motor City is scored similarly to Southern Assault. There are 3 major categories: painting, tactician, and sportsmanship. Those 3 are combined in order to make an overall score. Best overall was Chris V, playing Federated Sons. He did very well. He was ranked very highly by his opponents, and his paint job was pretty good. I mean, if you do all those things combined, you'll have a decent score by the end of it. Why do I do this? Why do I do an overall score? I do it because I want the event to be new people friendly. I want it to encourage people to come who haven't played in a tournament setting before or looking just for good vibes. And that means that maybe you're not a good painter. You can come in and play, and if you're polite to your opponent and you do decent on the battlefield, you'll get a decent score. Or maybe you're a great painter, but you're terrible at rolling dice and your tactics suck. Well, then you can paint a nice model, come out, have a good time, be a nice opponent, and still place middle of the pack. And that'll be okay, right? This is why I do that combined score. But then we do best of everything, second and third. So our best tactician for the day was Corey H. Our best painted was none other than Jeff, who's joined us here today, Mr. Tweezer himself. You painted some very, very nice Draconis Combine mechs, and all 3 of our judges thought the same.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Best sportsman was John K. Second place tactician was also actually tied for best painted with Jeff, but that was Kevin V. He also had very good Draconis Combine mechs. There's a conspiracy here with Draconis Combine players, I swear. And our second best painted was Scott Bomer from ScottsGameRoom.com. And Scott had brought Nova Cats, and I was absolutely shocked. He had this really nice star pattern constellations on these mechs to the point where he had done faint little like halo glows as if you were looking at these stars, up in the sky. They were amazing.
Have you not seen Scott's stuff before?
No, I have not.
Okay. He is a local to me. His stuff is amazing. Yeah, so that does not surprise me.
Yeah, I was really upset during one of the games. He dropped one of his models and it broke in half. Thankfully, we had emergency super glue on hand and he was able to fix it, but that was sad. Yeah, we had second place sportsman was Russ J. And then we had third place tactician was Jeff S. Third place painted was Chris P. And third best sportsman was Garner S. I do 2 other trophies. I do Player's Choice, which people vote for in the middle of their 4th game. And this is a combination of best painted or whatever people thought was best painted or favorite opponent, however you want to call Player's Choice. I let people kind of congregate, think, talk, and vote. And that went to Gary L. The last one we do is called the Golden Irby, because sometimes you just show up to the battlefield, try your darndest, and things don't work out, much like the Irby himself. And that went to Mitchell J. This is the person that has the lowest overall score, but has the highest sportsmanship of, if there's a tie in the lowest score rankings, is the highest sportsmanship out of that. So that's the Golden Irby. The benefit of getting the Golden Irby is that next year you get to bring an R68 Irby for free in your list should you come back and decide to participate. So you get a free model.
Yeah, I was about to ask about that because I heard rumors. I think that's amazing.
It's just kind of fun. It keeps bringing people. What it has done in the past is brought people that were frustrated that they had done poorly. It gave them a reason to come back and try again with a little bit of fun, and they get a 3D printed, spray painted gold Irby that I give them, and a big trophy. They get the biggest trophy actually that they get, but
I'm pretty sure I heard from across the room this year, the Golden Irby from last year taking down a Kingfisher.
Yes,
it did. It was great. That was Chris Jr. who had the Golden Irby from last year. Chris Jr. came up to me after game 2 and says, "Steve, if I do really badly again, can I run 2 Golden Irbies?" I told him I'd think about it. He did okay he did better this year than he did last year, but yeah, so he had fun with it. He was throwing that thing into all sorts of danger, trying to get it to kill the biggest thing on the map, which is great. But no, those are all of our trophy winners and our podium placers. So congratulations to all of them. That was the placement for the event. I really wanted to take a moment and thank Bobby over at Fortress Miniatures and Games. He helped sponsor the event. He sent us a lot of great stuff to pass out. He saved me a bunch of blind boxes. So for all of you that were looking for blind boxes, I apologize. I may or may not have an addiction, but I gave them away as prizes this time. I didn't rip them open as much as my better judgment told me to steal those and rip them open. I did not. I gave them away.
I'm proud of you.
I am too. I almost couldn't help myself. I just smell them at night.
I was surprised. I mean, I was thinking some of this might have come out of your own personal stash there.
So we had another sponsor. We had Pam over at RIW Games in Livonia, Michigan. Pam went above and beyond with her. I mean, she was great. She's a huge local supporter of the BattleTech community, and she's very generous. She gave us all of the gift cards. She gave us 25 sets of $25 gift cards for the store. And she also has a rule that for every tournament that she helps sponsor or run, the person who drives the farthest gets a $100 gas card to help cover the cost of gas. And that was extremely generous. So Pam really went above and beyond for us this time. So if you're in the Metro Detroit area and looking for BattleTech stuff, please go check out RIW and tell Pam that Steve sent you, because she is an angel of a woman who is very helpful. So we really appreciate Pam and all she's done. Also, I mean, we've had help from Death Ray Designs with some of the tokens and the trophy toppers that we used. K&T Printing gave us some stuff. Magnum Danger on the Discord gave us a Terran Foundry piece of terrain to go in all the swag bags, which was pretty great. And of course, Matt over at Cross Electric Designs gave us an exclusive Motor City Mayhem vehicle/turret topper to be used in the Hinterland stuff. You can just plop it down and have it be a proxy for whatever you need. So I'm sure I'm forgetting someone, but all of these great helpers came together to make this event really phenomenal. So thank you for all that help. Wouldn't have been the same without it.
Yeah, I couldn't believe the prize table when I saw it. It was amazing how much was there. And I know a bunch of us went over to RIW after the event and cleaned Pam out of everything.
Oh, no.
That's bad for me, because next time I go over, there's not going to be anything left.
Just have to reorder.
Well, yeah, but that's the trick. Who knows if she'll get it? But no, that's good. That's good. And I know Pam was excited about all that. So,
but Jeff, you may be asking yourself why you're on here today.
I have been. I've been here for an hour now. It's like, well, why did they need me?
Well, we just wanted to hang out with you because Steve got to do it all all weekend.
I missed you guys too.
Well, we thought you'd be a great addition for talking about some like event statistics, the event missions, which were blind because as a fellow TO, you have a lot to put in / give to that. And of course, comp scores / competitive scoring, because it's one of those controversial things that you had at Bluegrass and we had at Motor City or at Southern Assault and other events. So it's like, we've never really talked about that. And it's like, well, let's get a professional TO. Oh my gosh, let's get 2 of them to talk about it. So,
wait, where did this professional come from?
Hey, man, as soon as you get a microphone in front of your face, you're a professional.
Oh, boy.
What is it? We're white men with microphones. It's like we have opinions and the world needs to know.
Yeah, Murderer Crow's podcast of white guys. Yeah.
But yeah, so let's talk about the first thing. There, of course, were some changes from standard Alpha Strike for this event. I think the big one is no artillery, but we did get 2 free BSPs. Right, Steve? How did...
Correct. Last year, we had a lot of new people have really bad experiences with artillery because it's not a lot of fun to play with and it's kind of oppressive. So this year we opted... Well, we had the problem. Do we allow artillery or not? And we opted for no. This caused a secondary problem. Now, with no artillery and no good way to counter TMM 4 or 5 units, especially getting into later eras, what do you do about high TMM spam? I think the answer is balance-wise BSPs, right? You can take strikes and bombs. I think that's really great. But now the bigger issue is how do you balance those? So you pick the number of BSPs you want your players to have. If you do anything above 5, heaven forbid you go up to 10 or 15, mathematically, the best option 9 times out of 10 is to just take strafing runs, right? It's effectively a heavy strike with a higher to hit number, yes, but you get it on everything under the template. So I didn't really want to do that because that also feels pretty bad and could be way too oppressive. So we opted for a custom rule that we call the Eagle 1. You were given your choice of any combination of light strike, heavy strike, light bomb, or heavy bomb, but only those 4. You could only use 1 per turn and only 2 per game, which meant that if someone ran 2 dashers, you could heavy bomb them both on separate turns and kill them, right? Mercuries became less of an issue. VTOLs became less of an issue. If you had a stealth VTOL, you could just heavy strike it and roll on a 6-up and try to take it out of the sky. So that was what we thought was a relatively elegant solution. I didn't play any games. I'd be really curious, Jeff, what you thought of Eagle 1 and how did it play out in your games?
As a player, 100% you made the right choice because it took away that bad feels of going up against an arty gun line, but it still gave you a way to take care of those things. And I would say 9 times out of 10, people either went with the heavy strike to kill that one thing that must die right now, or a heavy bombing when someone might have made a little bit of a tactical error and put things a little bit too close. Especially I ran into a lot of X-Mech battle armor mounted on hovercraft. And so I managed to heavy bomb 4 targets at once.
Ooh. That's efficient. That's efficient. Yep. I know I had one game that I walked past a table. It was game 3. Someone had moved 4 tanks into a small valley between a rock and their objective building. And the other party just dropped a heavy bomb right on the middle of it and did 2 damage to 4 different tanks and ended up immobilizing like 3 of them. It was like a crazy, but that's value. Something that was interesting about using Eagle 1 was it was announced at the beginning of the packet, right? It stated right there that this was a thing that everyone was going to have access to. If I look at the list submitted from Motor City 23, 24, and then again at 25, the difference between the number of dashers taken between 3 and 4, and then this year, 2025, it dropped off precipitously, right? I mean, people just didn't take them because they only have 2 health, and a heavy strike will just kill it. So why are you going to gamble that many points on a 6-up? So that was pretty interesting.
I like it. I like that.
Yeah, but it still gives you the ability, like if you take multiple light hovercraft, like a bunch of TMM4 hovers that are just going to zip around everywhere, you can still get away with that. And it's like, okay, I may lose 2 of them, but I'm still going to get there.
But you have to commit. You can't just have that one unit that's going to do it. You've got to commit, and you've got to keep them spread out, and it brings tactics and into it more so than just taking that. Every list has a dasher P or whatever, or dasher H.
I did see a lot of people use the heavy strike as that last 2 damage to take out something. Like, you've been sandblasting it away. It's like, it didn't quite get there. Oh, wait, I've got a strike. I can come in and just finally take that off the board.
Yep, that's the hope. I wanted to give people a toolbox to play with rather than assigning them, you only get a heavy bomb or you only get a heavy strike. I said, you pick whatever you want. Someone asked me, he said, why give me light strikes? And I said, why am I going to force you to roll on a 6-up or a 7-up when you could roll on a 5-up and get the same result of killing a mech? That's up to you. If you don't want to use them, don't use them. But the choices are yours and yours alone.
Do they have to pre-choose before the game? Okay, that's cool. That's even better.
Yeah, you get a plane that is loaded with bombs and bullets, and you dictate when they're used, how they're used. I don't care. But you only get 2 and 1 per turn, right?
For Liberty.
For Liberty.
No, I thought it was a good, fun rule. I definitely liked that it gave me options, but everyone was on the same page. I knew it going in, so it wasn't like I'm going to get stomped if I take this. It's like, nope, this is what everyone has access to. So I enjoyed. I didn't think I would enjoy it until I thought about it, and I was like, oh, it's kind of nice.
Good. I mean, I hope it was received well, and all of the feedback I've received via email, no one has said anything actually about it at all. I don't know whether they liked it or didn't, but no one said anything bad, so I'll take that as a win.
If anything, it just changes up the meta that you're going to see at that event. And it's like, okay, if I take all blocky, chunky bricks, then it doesn't matter, and that's okay. But if I want to take Dasher H's, then I have to rethink.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you take a bunch of, walking tanks, once I get into your structure, I just use a light strike and get an extra critical hit on you that turn. I mean, that's what it's used for. So,
all right. So you also use the crit die, which is controversial in the sense that it's not in the rules, like, at all.
Yeah.
But it's one of those, like, more commonly rolled homebrew rules.
Yeah, we took that from Bobby and Southern Assault. For those of you at home that don't know what the crit die is, it is rules as written. If you're playing with multiple attack rolls, you roll 1 set of dice per possible damage and see if you roll the target number on each of those sets of dice. What that does is if I'm rolling 4 sets of dice, that gives me 4 opportunities to roll a 12 to get a through armor critical hit. That is more than the single attack roll, 1 possible chance to roll a 12. So what the dedicated crit die optional rule does is requires you to select 1 pair of dice, and that is the only pair of dice that can roll a 12 and get a through armor crit. All the other 12s you roll on any other sets of dice are ignored. Some people don't like that because it feels bad when you roll a 12 and you're not getting a through armor crit, but it does keep the mathematical probability of through armor crits the same as single attack roll, for better or worse. It's just about evening out that curve in my mind, which is why I opted for it.
For tournaments, I do think it's better because it's BattleTech and lucky shots win or lose the game for you. Like they just do. So if you curb the number of times that can happen mathematically, it's going to even it out and start making it lean towards more tactics than luck winning a game for you.
Yeah, I think so.
And as a TO, the fewer feels bad moments you introduce into the game, the better off your tournament's going to be. And that just kind of reduces the amount of times where you can just get that one hit against you. Just like, oh, that really crushed me.
I've never seen anyone get headshot turn 1 at a tournament.
Never.
Brand new Thunderbolt.
I mean, it can still happen, but it's not like, oh, I'm rolling 7 dice and I just need to roll 112. And oh, sorry.
Speaking of 7 dice and 12s, this is probably one of the best stories. I wasn't even here to see it. I'm at the front desk and I hear an eruption of noise come from the back. And I'm like, I gotta go check this out. So I walk over there and I go, what's happening? First off, is this a problem shouting or is this like an excited shouting? And this guy goes, my guillotine is my commander. My commander has 4 health left. The opponent was firing 7 shots with a target number of 7. So 7 shots on 7s. He only needs 4 hits. Mathematically, this guillotine is dead to rights. So he shoots and only gets 1 hit out of those 7 hits. So that's what the first cheer was for. The guillotine lived. But it was an internal structure. So he gets one critical hit, and then he rolled a 12. So he head capped the guillotine, and that's what the second eruption was for. And people were just having a riot. And that's, but that's for real. I mean, critical hits matter, and those one little lucky critical hits can change the game. So I try to even out that curve as best I can. I know some people disagree with me, and that's okay. But I've played Crit Stravaganza one too many times, and the game could just be over. So
right, and that's what I'm saying. Is it for pickup games, for tournaments, but campaign type stuff? I think you should keep it as it is in the book. But for tournaments, the way you're doing it is my preferred method.
So you had a rule. I don't want to say to prevent tabling, but to, I guess, prevent farming or something.
Yeah. So what is a tabled rule? This year, I added a new rule called the table rule. Last year, some people felt bad because they were winning in combat. They killed their opponent, and they thought, great, there are now 4 turns left in the game mission, right? I can score for 4 turns. I get full points. It's great. And the rule packet says that no, once a party is tabled, the game immediately ends. I understand that, it kind of sucks when you're trying to play somewhat tactically, you kill somebody, and then why can't I continue to take the objective, right? In a normal combat scenario, once you hold the field, you complete the objective after the fact. That's just normal. But we're trying to prevent some of that farming, or rather encourage objective play. So the new rule I implemented was, if an opponent is tabled, the party who holds the field after the fact gets 1 full turn to act and move as they wish, but then the game automatically ends. And you cannot go past the originally dictated term of the game mode or the mission, right? So if I table you on turn 4, I get 1 turn to maybe wrap up a score or maybe do something else to help me get an objective. I tried to split that baby and make it kind of equitable, right? So if you table someone, you still have a chance to get some points, but I'm not going to let you table someone to get 5 turns of uninterrupted scoring. So I didn't have anyone complain about it, but I don't know. What do you guys think? Does that sound reasonable? I don't know.
I mean, you're capping that runaway scoring, which is perfect. You need to do that as a TO because that also creates more bad feels. I don't think anyone really ran into that problem at all. If anything, I think you might have had more of a problem with people purposefully leaving something alive so they could farm points. So you still have a little bit of a farming aspect there, which is another problem that it's hard to deal with sometimes. I know several of my opponents, once we kind of got to that state on either side, it was just like, this isn't going to change the outcome. Let's just go ahead and cut to the end and say, you know what? This is what it's going to end up being like. Let's not play the next 2 turns and be meaningless for the next 20 minutes.
Josh, what about you? You think about anything about that?
I'm just trying to think back to every tournament game that I've ever played, and it's you want to prevent all of my list does is kill you from completely ignoring the beautifully intricate mission you've written up. It's well, if you do that, then what's the point? So I think you need to have something added in that stops I'm just here to kick teeth in and win the triathlon.
Yeah.
It's I get the gun and I shoot my opponent, I win gold. It's no, you didn't do half the course.
Right.
Well, I mean, so I appreciate the solution to this. I would say that I approached it a little bit differently for my event, where I still wanted a very objective and mission focused event where it's I want you to play the mission. The goal is not just to, throw dice and blow each other up, because you could do that over your kitchen table at home. A lot of people go to an event because they want to see something special, something new. So my approach was really a race for the objective. I capped the objective points, but whoever got there first cut off all objective scoring.
Yeah. Yeah, that was really curious. And I actually didn't hate that solution. I just thought some of the ceilings were a little low, and we talked about that in one of the previous episodes. And that was just because, in the first mission we played with the shrinking walls, I got to 20 on first turn just because,
yeah,
it happens, right? And that's a tweak that we can kind of adjust, right? So whether it's an objective cap and that cuts off scoring, because in Motor City, max objective points were 60 and max combat was 30. So you would always score more points if you did the objective, right? But if I hit 60, you could then also go get 60. So there wasn't a lockout element.
Yeah, but still, I really appreciate. I'm glad you said that because I really appreciated that about the event, that there was a heavier weight on doing the mission because that's what you're supposed to be doing. So just having that higher score did benefit a lot.
Yeah, and then that's the hope, because if I'm going to go do the objective and you're going to focus on killing and you table me, well, now you only have one turn to try to do the objective as opposed to just doing both, right? You don't just get to kill me and then complete your mission. So again, I haven't received any complaints about it, but it's a tough metric to use, right? It's like, I haven't heard anyone complain, but I don't know if it worked the way it was intended. So we'll see.
I mean, the only way you're going to find out is by playing more and more games, which is nice that neither of you are convinced that your way is absolutely perfect. Therefore, you're leaving a lot of room for adjustment as these events continue. Just tweaking it when and where problems pop up is the most important thing. So it's a living document, as it were.
And we'll make tweaks and changes for next year. So we'll see.
Here's my big one. Did you learn anything about Alpha Strike while putting on this tournament or playing in it, Jeff?
I learned that you could actually strike against VTOLs. I also learned that you could DFA against infantry.
Yeah, that was when we had to look up. Someone tried to DFA infantry, and it was really interesting because in Classic you cannot, and in Alpha Strike there's no prohibition in the rulebook, so it has to be assumed as permissive. And I got called in on that question. I'm like, I think it was actually Tom who had that question, and he goes, "Can you DFA battle armor?" And I said, "Yeah, of course." And he goes, "Are you sure about that?" And I'm like, "Well, I was until about 2 seconds ago." So yeah, we had to look that one up. And then someone else tried to DFA somebody, and I had to actually look up the rules for DFA and Alpha Strike because no one ever does that. You just, yeah. But that was fun. But I mean, yeah, those are the rules I had to look up. But did I learn anything? Not about Alpha Strike. Not really.
Just about yourself.
About myself, about other people, about running stuff.
Well, okay, let's get in we'll do the quick one. Some list statistics. Deep thoughts. Like, who was the most popular faction?
Hell's Horses by a wide margin.
Really?
Opponents everywhere.
Yeah. There were so many opponent E's, so much heat got thrown in those lists. I think we probably had, I have to guess, I think it's 6 players that were 6 or 7 Hell's Horses out of 50 some people.
That's a lot.
That's
in
a
comparison.
Lot. More than 10%.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was Jihad era. Hell's Horses has some good stuff. And if you're looking to get cheap heat on vehicles, that's the way to do it. I think the second highest one was, I believe, Davians, actually. Federated Sons. And then Draconis Combine after that. So, yeah. Pretty standard, couple clans interfere. There was only one Jade Falcon player, and they tried their best, and I appreciate that the Green Birds got represented. There was one Merrick faction. Glad the Purple Birds got represented. That felt good, too. So
there are people trying to score brownie points. Got it.
Yeah, you know who tried to literally score brownie points? Tom. His display board was a cast iron pan filled with brownies and Kit Kats.
Man, after my own cholesterol-laden heart.
No, it was so good. And it was funny. I mean, he said he was going to do it, and I told him he wasn't going to. He didn't have the cojones to. And that was the wrong challenge to send to Tom, because Tom never backs down from a goofy challenge like that. And, I mean, he had taken Toblerone squares and made, like, roadblocks out of the Toblerone squares. He made, like, a little diorama on his brownie display board. It was delightful.
Why have I never thought to do that? Why?
Not creative enough, Josh.
I know. Let's talk about the missions real quick, because I never saw the missions because they were blind, and Jeff can give his impression of the missions live. What was mission 1?
We did Hold the Line, where you have to get your force across the halfway mark on the map, and prevent your opponent from doing so.
Classic. Love it.
Classic.
Every time.
Yeah, it was a great starter mission because you want to ease people into the day, and it's not just a standard, oh, let's just drop down, let's kill everyone. But it does tend to be a little bit of a do-si-do where it's like, okay, I'm going to go over here, you're going to go over there, and once you kind of intersperse, it gets interesting.
Was there much NASCARing? Did you see that where it's like?
Yep. Yeah, I made a loop multiple times with a couple of my guys. I did really like some of the so Steve did a lot of really cool things with secondary objective scores. So you could do like kind of cool one-time things that got you bonus points in each mission. So that was handy. I liked a lot of the stuff that you did with that. Just your commander has to cross the line, and you destroy the fastest unit. You can prevent everyone from crossing the line, or at least one person from crossing the line.
Yeah, I mean, we tried to mix it up a little bit. Also, every year I try to do at least one mission that involves a commander to try to kind of change the meta a little bit. And this time I did it on this mission where the commander had to get across the line, survive. You were, trying to kill their commander too. And it was kind of a little back and forth, trying to just put a little twist on regular walk across the map mission. So I think that worked out okay.
No, I like it. What was mission 2?
Mission 2 is one of the more popular games. This is a mission that I came up with for Motor City 1. I think I called this Fragile. Fragile, Handled with Care is the name of the mission. And it is the 6 objective markers interspersed in the middle of the map that contain cargo crates that you are to go pick up, carry, and bring back to your deployment zone. The only hiccup is that those carrying crates have the potential to explode. So, Josh, you played this when you came to Motor City last year, but this year we made some pretty drastic changes. We put a lot more conditions on what caused explosions. So now if you moved over 8 inches, if you sprinted, if you jumped, it would trigger a roll, and on a 1 or 2, the cargo would explode, dealing 3 damage and a critical hit. And the idea behind this, it's nasty. But the idea is to make people choose if they want to sprint with it or run with it, trying to get it back to the deployment zone faster, or if they are going to try to take it safe and slow, but maybe suffer shots from your opponent. That was supposed to be the choice.
And after our last episode, we can also just throw them at the opponent, see what we can do with that.
Yep.
You should have let us throw them at the opponent to do like range damage to the cargo. It's like I throw it and I make it explode at you.
I thought about that, and then we did the episode about how to actually throw things in Elbow Strike, and I went, man, that's really complicated. How about we don't try to do that?
Good call.
But Jeff, what did you think about that mission when you played it?
So I remember this from last year, and I really enjoyed it. It's very, very complex with a lot of moving pieces. I like that it forces you into those choices that you said. Okay, do I go for this? Which set do I go for? Because whichever set I go for, I might be on the opposite end of the board from my opponent. How do I set up my sniper's nest to try to take down my opponent from getting theirs? Couple things about it. This is probably one that I had the most tweaks, I would suggest to, maybe.
Okay. Yeah.
It
break my heart on the radio, Jeff. Just tear me down.
I will. The explosions were brutal. And maybe this is my personal game, so you get a little bit of like what happened to me. I had 6 explosions in my game, and I killed 3 of my own mechs from explosions. Okay.
All right. I get it.
Did you email him about this? Because he doesn't know anything if you don't email.
I did tell him, but he was a little bit punch drunk at that time. And it's only been 2 days since I've been back, so I haven't done that email yet.
Shoot that email to me with all of your hate, and I will I'll take it under advisement. But no, you're not the first person to say that the explosions are brutal. I've heard some people say take away the critical hit. I've heard some people say make it not a 2-inch radius.
Part of it was just dice rolls for me. You've got a 1 in 3 chance of doing something very bad to yourself, and 1 in 6 chance of doing something very, very bad to yourself. Because I know one of mine, I rolled the crit and then rolled a 12. It's like, It's like, juggling the package and it blows up right in my face. I would say that this was the one that a lot of people spent the most time reading.
There's a lot of words there.
Most games took 10 minutes just to read through it and try to figure out what it actually meant. So I love the concept, and I ran this same thing at Bluegrass, albeit in a classic format.
Right.
And I got the same feedback from Bluegrass. Is like, this was a lot to kind of take in. So it's good it's not game one, but how do you reduce that? That'll be the key, is like a TO if you're running your own mission on this, is how do you make it easy for the players to get into the game quickly.
Yeah. And this is one of the points in favor of releasing missions ahead of time, is it allows players the opportunity to review, read, and understand the mission, how it functions, as opposed to blind missions, right? The counter flip side to having blind missions is that people cannot tailor make their lists in order to succeed at one or two missions, right? So toss up either way.
How many TOs did you have wandering around?
Me and Paul.
Just two?
2 for 54 players, I think.
Right.
So
that's what I'm saying. It's a lot. So blind missions are great, especially if when people do have questions, you can give the same answer. It doesn't have to be the correct answer. It just has to be the same answer. And when you only have 2 TOs, it is a lot easier to coordinate the tricky ones.
Yeah, the number of times Paul and I had powwows and met up and talked about stuff was frequent. And he goes, hey, I made this ruling on this other table, just so you're aware, if you get the same question, we got to be consistent. I said, agreed. And I did the same thing, flagged him down.
See, Paul's great. We like Paul.
We like Paul. Paul's great. Thank you, Paul.
The last thing I'll say is thank you for making Probe, Recon, and MHQ count for something.
Yeah. So in this game mode, if you had Probe, MechHQ, or Dog, and you went to effectively the objective markers on the table were effectively ball pits, right? There were tons and tons of cargo containers there. There weren't a certain number of cargo containers. You go get as many as you needed. If you had one of those special abilities, you didn't have to roll to pick it up. You just got one, and it wouldn't explode. But if you started running or jumping or sprinting, then they may explode. So we try to get those keywords a little bit of use, because otherwise I don't see much use in Alpha Strike. Not really.
Right. I like it.
What was the next mission?
Well, first we broke for lunch.
Oh.
And then I spent way too much time checking on paint jobs, because that took a long time. Mission 3 was a new mission that we came up with for this year. We called it Bunker Buster. And there was one central building in the middle of each opponent's deployment zone, and 2 smaller radio towers in the back corners. The central building had 30 construction factor, had damage reduction of 1, and was fire resistant. The radio towers in the back only had 5 construction factor, but were only worth, I believe, 10 objective points to kill. But the main central building was worth 40 objective points if you killed it. So the deal was fight your opponent, destroy the building, destroy the turrets if you have time. You get bonus points if you use long range. And, see how it goes.
Yeah, so bunkers is always a really fun one. A lot of people try it, and this solution to making the building somewhat damage resistant was one of the better ones I've seen. Because usually bunkers can end up in a situation where you just blow up the building turn 1, and it just turns into a free-for-all after that. So highly appreciated that. The fire resistant was also a fun feature that I wasn't expecting, that just is a nice add to it.
Well, it's one of those things we talked about, Paul and I, when we were designing the mission, because in the event, we knew people were going to have flame, right? And if you're not a mech, flame damage is converted into extra damage. So all of a sudden we're like, all right, we looked at some previous lists that were submitted from last year and the year before that I'd saved. Try to get an average damage value and try to set the health based on that. And we wanted to reduce overall damage done, but not necessarily make the construction value 60, because that just sounded ridiculous. And then we cut out heat because, we're our goal was 2 to 3 turns of consistent shooting should destroy the main objective, because you have 8 rounds to play. You have to spend a little bit less than half of your time shooting the building in order to get it. And what we discovered is that the vast majority of players, I think 40 players, completed killing all three of the objectives on the map. So it was a very high scoring game, and that one has gotten the most feedback about how to tweak it. So we're looking at possibly giving the building stealth armor so they don't have the -4 for immobile, right? Because they were very easy to hit because they were just standing still. So looking at some other solutions as to how to make that a little bit more difficult, but not unplayable. So it's a work in process.
So the one question I would ask you on this is, how would you encourage more player interaction? Because that's the other thing with bunkers. You are now playing the map.
Yeah. One of the things that had been suggested is making the commander more useful in this mission, right? Maybe you give the commander, a bonus to shooting other mechs or something like that. You've got someone who's actually directing. Someone had also suggested using the shielding rules that are in the book, right? So if I put my mechs in front of my building, you have to shoot through my mechs, and there's a chance you're going to hit my units as opposed to hitting the building, right?
I like that idea.
And it's a level 3 building, so it's a big building, but we got to look into it. But it is one of those cool, fun rules that you could use, and all of a sudden it's like your building is wearing battle armor, right? So could look into that.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, we have to do some exploring and tweaking and play testing to see how it goes. But yeah, I think that mission was fun. It's something new to make it different.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
What was the last mission?
Our last mission of the day was Karnov Down, right? That's your VTOL with the planetary governor, 2 external VIPs per VTOL, 1 internal, and you zip out, grab them, and bring them back. We had tweaked this a little bit rule-wise, and Jeff, maybe you can comment on this because I know you ran Karnov Down at Brawl in the Blue. What did you think of the placement of the VIPs? Because you had yours inside the VTOL. I put mine outside the VTOL. I guess your general thoughts. I mean, we've all played this mission mode 100 times. It's very popular, but I'm curious what you thought of the tweaks.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you actually really tweaked it that much, or if you did, I didn't notice it significantly because it played very similar to it. I didn't mean that as a bad thing because it was already a very solid mission archetype. So whether it's just in the VTOL or outside of the VTOL, it still kind of plays the same. I think a lot of people really enjoyed this. Like, I played someone that had never seen it before, and they're like, whoa, this is really cool. So we had a lot of fun going through that. It's another one that's a big mission briefing, so you got to make sure you give a little bit of extra time for people to read it. What you wanted it to do, it forced people to make a lot of very interesting decisions about how they approached it. Which side did you go for? How did you try to secure the VIPs? Did you get a little scrum around one of the VTOLs or not? And how you really interacted with the opponent. So I think it's a great mission.
Yeah, I think that's why it's so popular, and we'll try to find fun ways to make it different in the future, but I think it went well.
This is another one that gets very map dependent. So depending on how the map is laid out, I'm glad that you pre-place all the terrain or like pre-place where all of the objectives are. It could even be something as simple of a tweak as you're going around and you see one map is just has a vast open space that you are like 12 inches from any kind of cover to get to it. Maybe you scooch it over more to one edge of the board.
Yeah, we had, when Paul went through, he did a quick check on a lot of these maps to tweak terrain just a little bit to make it a little more balanced in some of these cases. Because if you had 2 VIPs on one side of a small wall, one side is absolutely going to benefit from that than the other. So the wall got moved, right? So.
No, sounds like it was a really well done event, missions wise, TO wise, and player wise. Now let's talk about, I don't want to say the controversial part, but when we talked about it at Bluegrass, it generated a lot of discussion on our Discord and fan mail. And I want to talk, because you did it again. You had scoring pre-tournament.
Yeah, we call them sweat scores or list scores is pretty common. So what this was is I didn't have a hand in this. I had 3 independent judges sit down and look at every list and rank them on 2 categories. One is fluff and one is sweat, right? Did you pull the units from your faction? Are they faction appropriate? Is it based in something in lore? Or, do the units look like they belong here? Did you follow, force composition? We're not using formations, but if you're running 6 units as a clanner, that's a little odd, right? But if you're running 6 as society, well, that's something else, right? Or 7 as society and 6 as Comstar, right? So if you have these kind of unit clusters, you just get a couple extra points here and there for construction. Likewise, if you're running all hyper efficient units and you have a lot of heat and you have a lot of indirect fire, if we had allowed artillery, I'm sure artillery would have taken a ding, but the whole event is designed to make sure everybody has a good time while still remaining competitive. So this sweat score effectively was applied. It's kind of a tiebreaker number when necessary in order to help kind of, incentivize people to not bring good stuff, but just maybe not overdo it with some of the less fun stuff,
Yeah.
So as a fellow TO, how much did the sweat score actually impact the overall rankings? Like, was there a point component to it that did go into your overall ranking?
Yes. As the 3 judges' scores were totaled and averaged, right? And then it was only between 1 and 50 points, right? 50 being the max. And then it was applied to not sportsmanship for sportsmanship ranking, but it was applied as a sportsmanship modifier for the overall score ranking modifier. So
okay, so it could have potentially been like what, an 1/8 of the overall points you could have gotten? I don't remember what the max score would have been for the event.
1,250 is a max score.
Oh, so even less than that.
Yeah. Yep. It was, yeah. So basically, one of the things that I had done in this tournament is for scoring purposes, sportsmanship, painting, and combat are all equally weighted. If you max out your fighting score, you will get 100 points per mission, which for a total of 400 points. Therefore, sportsmanship was awarded by the players to the players. Then that was averaged and multiplied to make it equal 400. So if you maxed out 25 every turn, it would be multiplied up to 400. And then painting was the same thing. We had 3 independent judges who ran by, did all the judging for the models. Those scores were then combined, averaged, and then multiplied to make a max painting score of 400. So a total of 1,200 points. And then there was this 50 sweat score kind of icebreaker, fluctuator doohickey. So just to kind of make sure we didn't have any, or it would help negate ties, as it were, right? But we obviously want to reward the people who are showing up with nicer lists, still doing very well. We want to put those people up just a little bit to try to encourage that behavior.
So would you say that competitive, like pre-list scoring exists to weed out everyone from taking the most, like, I'm not here to make friends, I'm here to win list building, to kind of encourage more organic, like, hey, take your favorite units, like, hey, I will say they were blind missions, so there was no like I can practice and maximize and like I have the formula down for what I need, like I'm playing this mission regardless of what my opponent brings kind of stuff. But like when you have a competitive scoring aspect, it's like there's a little bit more, I don't want to say remember the human component behind when you make the list.
So you asked, does it weed out that kind of competitive element? And I think the answer is no. I think if people want to show up and play, I think they're going to show up and play what they want to. The goal behind it is that if somebody brings something that is more fun to play against and has a better, or we'll say reduces the opportunities for NPEs, if we're close, I want the person who brought the less NPE list to do better in placement. And if that changes a podium slot, then so be it, right? I don't think it's going to stop anybody, but I would like to encourage I don't want to call it better behavior, but more fun-oriented behavior, as it were.
I'm going to disagree slightly because my experience is it does tend to limit that. It's not going to completely eliminate, the win at all cost lists, because you're still going to get that. But I have noticed that if you add some kind of a comp score to it or a sweat score, it will make people sit back and think, oh, well, hold on, maybe I need to tone it down a little bit. So I have seen a drop in the nastiness once you actually implement something like that.
Well, that's good.
Steve,
I don't know if
you had some bad feelings at Jeff's tournament because
I'll explain, right? When what happened at Brawl in the Bluegrass is that you ended up sending out sweat scores ahead of time, right, prior to the event. And I felt badly because I don't play a lot of Classic, so I thought what I had brought wasn't maybe as bad as it could have been or should have been perceived, right? I didn't think it was that bad because I'd taken a lot of Inner Sphere Pulse. And I'm not contesting the score that I received. Mm-hmm. More importantly, what had upset me was I didn't want to be perceived as I only did as well as I did because I brought, the sweatier units, as it were, right? That wasn't my intention. I'm here to have a good time. I want to try to encourage and have fun play. I brought stuff that I didn't think was that bad, and the judges disagreed, and that's fine. I'll default to the judges, ruling. I was concerned that it would be perceived as, oh, Steve's here to kick in teeth and kick baby seals, which is not what I had done, right? So the perception is what I was concerned about.
Well, I mean, from our perspective, there wasn't really a perception. It was more an objective score of it. Like, there was no subjectivity about what your intent was. And what we tried to do, the only reason that we actually released those for Bluegrass ahead of time was an overwhelming desire from the majority of the players asking what their score was. So I released those individually to the players. No one found out what anyone else's score was unless you all chose to share it,
right,
days before the event. So you couldn't really change anything, but it's like, okay, you really want to know? Here's what you scored.
Right.
But you did it right as far as like having a panel. It's not just you, and especially taking yourself out of it, and you made yourself independent to it. It's like there is a panel of people that don't know who these people are. They don't know whose list is whose. They're making the score judgment. So I 100% agree with that.
Denim, what are your thoughts as a more seasoned player who's been playing a long time about at an event like scoring a list beforehand? Like, whether it be just to line up, like, okay, these players are here to win and these players are here to have fun and possibly win, or like this is part of the scoring component, like they've optimized all their units to the nth degree rather than like, oh, this is a good unit kind of thing.
In a perfect world, it wouldn't be necessary because battle value would be 100% accurate and it would be self-balancing. That is not how this game works, though. There are things that are weighted improperly in the current battle value system. So I actually think for tournament play, this is an essential part of evening out some of the rougher spots. Hopefully, in a tournament, it wouldn't matter that much, but you definitely have people that find a loophole, that find a certain combination to exploit, and they will just build a list to capitalize on that. And it makes it not fun for everyone except for the person playing that. And it's not how the game should feel. And I know some people are like, well, we're at a tournament, we're here to win. If you're not winning, then why are you even bothering? And I personally don't think that that's the proper attitude to bring to this game. So to have an artificial thing in place until battle value gets fixed, if, that's a big if, because it's super complex. I like the idea, especially if you're trying to do a themed tournament. Fluff is important. How much are you trying to adhere to fluff? How much of yourself? How much of the unit are you willing to put into your army? And then I'm mostly a classic guy. How many large pulse lasers on jumping mechs with targeting computers are you bringing for real? And why are you doing that? It's a necessary balance in the tournaments at this stage.
Yeah, I'll agree that if BV were perfect, then we probably wouldn't need these. We would probably reevaluate, like maybe just like the lore component of the pre-list evaluation. Like, oh, this is very, very faction appropriate. Like, we're going to give you a little bit of a bonus score for like doing that. Versus the us seasoned players know where BV does not, factor in well. So now we are like, rather than restrict what you can take, we're just like, hey, don't break the system, please.
I would love to live in a world where that happens.
Yeah.
But we don't.
Yeah. Now I wanted to talk, who does like comp score hurt and who does it help? Does it hurt newer players because they don't know the BV efficiencies, or does it help them because then they like, hey, take what you want kind of thing? Like, where does this roll into the average player?
I mean, at the end of the day, my personal opinion is it doesn't hurt tremendously unless it is a major component of the overall score. Like, if you're making it 10% of the score for the event, it can be devastating at times, and it will hurt a newer player because they don't know those things. I think it helps everyone overall, really, because it tries to help keep that balance between all of the different players, and especially if you're encouraging, lore and faction fluff accurate things. Like, I know that you said that was part of your rubric that you put together. I know I used it for Bluegrass. That just kind of helps establish the narrative of the game that you want it to run.
Yeah, I think that, you want to try to give at least some nod to players that are bringing faction appropriate material, right? Because otherwise you end up with a scenario where people are just taking the one faction that has access to the best mechs in that era, right? So at least that was the thought process, at least a little bit.
In other game systems, we would see this as like net listing, like, oh, this is the combination that works every time. In Battletech, we have more units, so I don't think that's as big of a problem. But there are things that are just better, and it's like, hey, newer player, don't be attracted to those. Yes, they look shiny now, but we have this entire buffet that we want to encourage you to eat at.
Well, every player goes through their eras phases, and they pick different things. They learn it, and then they realize, oh, that's why I don't see this that often, or that's why people go against this. Because, yes, it's a wide menu, but there still is a meta, which is a whole other conversation. And maybe I shouldn't have said that word, because now we're going to go off on a tangent for 30 minutes. But
no. Now, the big question that I think a lot of people think about and wonder is, does comp score matter? Like, you had 3 independent judges look at list and rank them on how maximized, optimized, and efficient-sized they would be for the tabletop, from like 1 to 25. So not even like a, pretty, like, no, this had full scale ranging. It's like, so my assumption is 3 judges, which I'm guessing are pretty good at the game, would be able to look at a list and say, okay, this list is going to do better. And then they would rank that like, this is more sweaty or cheesy or optimized. And the assumption, like I said, is that one would do better. Like, the better list is going to do better.
I don't know if the assumption is that they're going to do better. When I gave the instruction, I think the words I used were, try to rank these in what you think would be fun to play against, right? Because certain things, depending on the mission, depending on maps, may not do as well as something else, but you can still ruin somebody else's time, right? So I think the focus was more on, is this going to be fun to play against? Rather, is this going to do well? So I know we ran some numbers to kind of see whether the trends held up or not, right? So assumably, like you said, the ones that are more highly optimized in theory should do better overall. But we'll play out the numbers and see what they look like.
Yeah. So, Jeff, what do you think? Should a sweatier list win?
No.
You're saying it should not, or you would like it not to?
So I would definitely like it not to, but in my experience and the numbers that I ran from Bluegrass and even from, NashCon in previous years, it didn't hold in a lot of cases. It tends to perform above average, but also it's in the hands of the player. Like, how good is the player? How tactical is the player? Like, you can give someone all of the tools they need to do their job, and they're still not going to necessarily execute it the correct way.
I agree, because I think a more experienced player might not have what we would consider a sweatier list. They might have the list they want to bring and might just absolutely cream the floor with it because they're like, oh, this is my favorite mech. I run this every week. And it's like, yeah, but it's trash. And it's like, yes, but I've practiced it 1,000 hours in that mech. I know what it can do in every scenario, but it's trash. And it's like, I don't care.
But isn't that one form of sweat though, where if you know a list so well that you do know the places exactly where you need to place it every time, exactly what it's good against, exactly what it's weak against. You're finding the loopholes and the scenarios that it may not be, you may not be playing it as the book says you should, but you're playing it in a way that takes advantage of all these little tiny things that the developers and designers of the game didn't think about.
I think that's where you have to separate the I'm a sweaty player versus a sweaty list. Like, the list in any hand, in the average person's hand, will not carry through to the end. Like, but a good player could take that and run wild with it, kind of thing.
But there's also zero way to judge like a player who can do that. Like, you don't.
Well, we have the MRC ranking system, right, Jeff?
Oof.
Yeah, you'd have to be able to read their minds to really know.
Jeff, what does the MRC ranking system say about sweat score versus?
The MRC ranking system, I don't want to actually. It's a misnomer almost to call it a ranking system because yes, okay, there is an order, but it really is number of games played.
Yeah.
So naturally, with anything, the more games you play, the more practice you get, the more experience you get, and the better you become as a player. But the overall ranking system for the MRC, it's just the number of games played, really, and like the scores that you got on average for those games.
Good to know.
But at the end of the day, if you look at people that are on top, they probably can give pretty good advice just because they've played so many games. And it gets to what Denon was talking about. Like, you learn by practice, you learn by repetition, you learn by, cycles in it.
Yeah. I mean, you know where the blind spot is in Classic. You can take advantage of that in the right at the right moment at the right time with the right mech.
The Griffin versus the Stinger analogy, which
100% the Stinger versus the Griffin analogy.
Somebody brought that up recently, and I was like, no, don't you dare bring up Denham's Stinger versus the Griffin. The Griffin has a blind spot 90 meters out.
It's only 60 meters out.
I know. But okay, so just so I want it on the record, I thought that a sweatier list will do better. Steve, you said no or yes.
Yeah. Well, so
just give me the binary, yes or no. That a sweatier list you would think would do better in an event.
If I had to take a guess, do I think it would do better overall placement wise? Yep. I'd say probably.
Okay. So me and you are on the yes. Jeff?
That's not what I wanted to do, but
You're on the no.
So I'm on the no, like ideologically. In a vacuum, the answer is probably yes.
Mm-hmm.
It will do better than a non-sweaty list in a vacuum, but my experience is it tends to fall on the no. Like it really comes down to the player that's running it.
Yeah. And Denim?
By definition, in my mind, a sweatier list will play it against a large number of people because it's very specialized in many cases. It does one thing super, super well. And the odds are is that if you're taking it, you know when and where to take advantage of that. So there might be a couple lists that hard counter it, but it should do better in the long run against more lists.
Well, Steve, you provided the statistics for the event. Thank you. There were a lot of pages missing, a lot of Sharpie blackout with names redacted and all that. So there was a page of social security numbers. Thank you for that. Don't ask
that
where.
Was an accident. That was those were supposed to be sold to somebody else.
But I paid for those already. Come on.
But we did break down their sweat score to placement. So
in tactician score, that's important. Only. Not overall, but in tactician score only. Right. So the results of their list into their performance on the tabletop.
Yep. And I'm gonna be completely honest. The chart did not look anything what I thought it would.
It just looks like a shotgun blast.
It looks like a shotgun blast.
I mean, the R value is 0.013, so not statistically significant at all.
Yeah.
So for those of you not scientifically oriented, in this case, in this tournament, sweat score had almost no bearing on how you perform tactically on the table. And that is not necessarily indicative that we are incorrect in our stated assumptions that a sweatier list would do better. It might be that these sweatier lists were too highly optimized for the missions they were put up against, right? It could have been any number of factors that would change that. But
right. And there were only 4 missions, right?
There were only 4 missions. So it might just be sample size, right? Sample size may be too small to carry out the trend. But looking at this chart, it doesn't look good for the sweaty lists.
What do you think, Joe?
Or it looks just as good as any other list.
I mean, I'm actually not surprised because this is actually pretty similar to the chart that I saw from Bluegrass.
How many missions were at Bluegrass?
3 Classic, 3 Alpha Strike.
Yeah, it really could be a sample size. And if so, then it doesn't matter. If you're just doing tournaments with 3 or 4 missions, be as sweaty as you want. It may not make any difference at all.
Or on the flip side, don't be sweaty at all because it won't improve your performance.
That's
you
the
make
way
someone
I would
else's day better.
Go. Yeah, I agree. That's the way I would prefer you go, for sure.
But yeah, that was curious. When we saw this chart, I don't want to say surprised, but I was.
It was less I could glean less out of it than I expected. I expected maybe a little bit of a relationship. Maybe I can get a thesis out of this, but no, this is
I mean, if you look at the overall plot line, it does trend slightly up, but not in any meaningful way.
Yeah.
Right. And it's funny because I kind of anticipated these results because I had all the information on the chart. I knew who brought more competitive lists and I knew where they placed, overall, and I could see the stats ahead of time. So I kind of knew that the people with the sweatiest list did not end up at the top. But I hadn't crunched the numbers in a fancy scatter graph form. So,
yeah. Oh, no. So I'm happy to see that sweat did not have a good correlation to placement.
Yeah. I hope that encourages people to play more fun things and not Denim's just who cares about sweat score, go nuts and bring the sweatiest stuff you can find. Because if that starts happening, right, then TOs may decide to multiply that sweat score or make it a more consistent ding, right, in order to kind of force that course correction if necessary, right?
Okay. My problem would be is that even if it doesn't look like, because you're right, there is a slight, a slight slope to that graph, to that line. There is. So it's not a 0 amount, but what is not shown here is that win or lose, it is not a fun list to play against, and just playing against a very sweaty list gives NPE, and that could affect your whole mood for the rest of the event. like for
Well,
sure.
not to mention if you're having a lot of new people show up, right? You're going to turn people away from the hobby, or you're going to turn people away from the competitive scene, which, I mean, it's fun to play people you don't normally see at the game shop. It's fun to play, new lists or new tactics that you wouldn't otherwise see. So you want to encourage
my favorite part about
people.
going to events is getting to play new things that I don't get to play locally.
Yeah. I mean, there's a very strange meta, and I don't know if I've talked about it on the podcast before, but I know I've talked about it on the Discord. There's in the state of Michigan, I'm on the east side, right? Detroit's on the east side of the state, and we play more units, higher TMM. On the west side of the state, they play lower unit count and much higher skill. So they're bringing 4 guys, 5 guys that are skilled 2s and 3s to mop up some of the smaller units way, way faster. And it's curious because when they come to the tournament, anyone from my end of town goes, holy smokes, what am I doing? This is totally different, right? So you get this little interstate meta, which is an odd observation, right? It's just kind of fun.
I like that. Well, when I had the statistics for sweat score and placement and all that, I did a couple more. The next one I did was like, I want to know tonnage to placement. Like, yes, this is an Alpha Strike list. Tonnage doesn't really come in the same way as it does for Classic, but it kind of does. Like armor pips, structure pips. So it's like, does that come into effect? And no, it didn't. It's a straight line.
That's a flat line. I mean, the thing is, I don't think this is a surprise to anybody. In Alpha Strikes specifically, tonnage doesn't really matter that much. Not in the same way it does in Classic. So I'm not surprised by this result at all.
Yeah, I mean, I always wondered, like, oh, more armor, but then I'm like, no, armor and structure is actually pretty well accounted for in like the PV price in Alpha Strike. So it's like, yeah, so it just is what it is. But on the flip side of that one is the unit count to the placement. Like, well, just I think when I saw there was like a couple like full Lyran scout squads and all that. So like there were some thick boys on the field. Like
the lowest unit count list had 6 units.
Mm-hmm.
That was it. 6 guys. And the highest one I think had 14. Yep. Now, it should be noted that the event has a cap of 16 units total. So someone got real close to capping out on unit count, but not quite.
Yeah. 300 PV and 16 units is a hard, like, the math ain't mathin'.
Look, if you really want to take a ton of infantry, I guess you can, but...
No, it was fun to see, like, okay, unit count to placement, it looks like just taking the average number of units, like 10, did perfectly fine.
8 to 10. 8 to 10 is the Goldilocks zone there.
Now, Jeff, you at Brawl in the Bluegrass, you had 375. I don't know if we got stats on that. Do you know what the average unit count was for that?
It was actually pretty close to the same. I think I was more like 10 to 12.
So really not that many more for 75 points.
A lot of binaries and full companies.
Okay. Yeah, but you did have, I guess
I
that
ran
makes a lot more
formations,
sense.
So it was that's not really going to be an apples to apples comparison there.
No, I'd forgotten about that, but that's correct. Yeah.
I mean, I feel like a lot of people do that when they're building a list. It's like, oh, well, I'm so close, I might as well just downgrade this unit to get 2 to make the full star. Like, it's more thematic. It feels better. It plays better. I swear.
We should run those statistics later.
Yeah.
See how formation works. Unit count. I was actually a little bit surprised, truthfully, to see this trend. Again, R value of 0.039. So again, not statistically significant, but a slightly downward trend. The more units you had in general, the worse you did, which I thought was a little surprising because normally in a lot of other, frankly, in a Wolfnet format, the more fast movers you have, generally the better you do. So I was kind of surprised to see that downward slope. And I'm curious if that is a result of game 3, where the building had damage reduction. So a lot of those smaller, faster units only do 1 or 2 damage. And the damage reduction, I think, was playing a larger part. So maybe they didn't score as much. I'd be curious to run these numbers again based on tactical score in every specific mission.
Ooh,
right, that might be an interesting data to do. But that's a lot of data to do, and we're not doing it now. So,
next one I did was placement to long range, because you gave out pie plate award for most long range.
So one of the things we did is outside of the trophies, the podiums, I did paper plate awards, but I made certificates. Jeff, I have to admit, I stole this from you. You had your nice certificates for Brawl in the Bluegrass, and I thought they were so nice. And it was really a very cheap addition to do. I could print out a couple nice pieces of paper on cardstock and get a couple dollar store frames. Easy way to make people happy and have fun with it. So I did a bunch of paper plates, and one of them was called Oppressive Firepower, AWP Pressive. And that was for the most long range damage in a list. And that went to Scott Bomer at 17 long range damage in a list, which was a ton for 300 points.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, that's a ton of long range damage.
It's Nova Cats, though. So Scott took Nova Cats, and Nova Cats are the quote unquote snipers. So if you take all Nova Cat variants, it's all long range.
It's all there. Yeah. So just a couple fun ones. Who brought the lowest PV, who had the most overheat value, who dressed. We had a couple people dress up in cosplay, so I wanted to reward them for that. So I had a little paper plate for that. It's just a couple fun things, But yeah, Scott got the long range one because he had a ton of it, which was crazy.
Yeah, but for this one, it looks like if you took between 6 to 10 long range damage, you just did a little bit better. And I'd say that kind of tracks, because for those couple turns where it does matter, you can hit anything.
Yeah. And again, that might have been game 3 as well, because that actively rewarded long range damage. Yeah. So
there were some very heat feeling lists. I think the most we had was 13 heat, right, Steve?
13, 14, something like that. Yeah. There was a lot.
So the question is, did the more heat do better? And the math says no. And I think we all know it's because the more heat you take, there's a break point of, if you take only heat, you don't have damage. So we saw 2 or 4 heat do pretty okay, but anything really more than that just kind of slowed units down, and they could still do the missions, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you can't kill something and you only slow it down, so Magnum Danger on the Discord, he took a very heavy heat list to Southern Assault 2, I believe, or 3, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And he said he had problems killing stuff. He could slow everything down, he could shut stuff down, but he just couldn't finish the job, and he couldn't get those kill points. So again, with everything, right? A healthy balance. If you go up against somebody with a lot of vehicles or infantry, yeah, heat will do you a ton of good. But otherwise, you're just kind of, you need a splash. Don't dump the whole bucket in.
I find heat really depends on how many turns you're going. The longer the game can go, the more heat will pay for itself. If it's a shorter game, 4, 6, 8 turns, it's not going to be, you can't put enough heat on in the early turns to turn the tide enough. It's when you're getting to the 12 and 15 turn games that heat really starts paying for itself, because you have to be able to hit things with it for it to generate value. And if you're being taken out at long range or damaged too much early on, you're not using the points you spent on it. So you don't have the damage output, and you're not putting enough heat on things to get a return on your value.
Yeah.
So out of all of these, are we coming away with oh, I didn't think that, or are these trends that we kind of knew about and just didn't have the statistics to back them up, especially with the sweat score to placement?
Heat's not fun to play against, so it is by definition sweaty. I don't know what the judges said, but that would be certainly my opinion.
Yeah, I think
you can have a little heat as a treat.
Yeah, well, no, so this is the same.
It has its place. It's part of the toolbox, but don't depend on it. Don't make every single unit heat.
Yeah, no, I think the allowing your opponent to play the game is important, right? So when you when you have heat, it just slows things down, shuts them down, makes them shoot worse. It's a strategy, but it's very similar to T-Semp, right? You just shut things down. That doesn't feel great. Or if you play Magic the Gathering, it's like a land destruction deck where, yeah, I'm beating my opponent, but they're not doing anything. They can't cast any spells, right? It's the same type of thing, right? If one party is not playing the game, that feels bad because that's why we're here.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, and Denim, I'm pretty sure you said this before, it's a social contract that you are sitting down across from someone for 2 to 3 hours, and you're going to be there for 2 to 3 hours. And whether or not that person's going to have a good time is dependent about what you necessarily bring. So we want to make sure that everyone's really enjoying that, and you try to not create those negative play experiences.
That's my goal, but I know that not everybody thinks that way.
We just all need to think more like Denim.
Teach us, Sensei.
Well, I'd say this was a fun breakdown. We talked a little bit about comps, scores, sweat scores. I always love statistics post-tournament. Like, eat it up every time. I just need breakdowns.
I mean, they're fun. You learn a lot.
And you learn a lot.
We can take impressions away. Oh, this is what I felt or this is what I thought. But unless you get really nitty-gritty in the numbers, it doesn't really shake out, right?
Yeah. Well, Jeff, thanks for coming on to give your opinions as both a TO for all events and a player for Motor City.
Well, thanks for having me, and now I'll get to see how badly I get ripped apart in the Discord for my opinions.
Oh, we delete all those. Okay.
Let me have it. No, I appreciate it. It's always a lot of fun to hang out with you guys.
You too.
Yeah, Jeff, I want to thank you again for coming up to Motor City. It was nice seeing you and Pirate and John, and it was great to hang out with you guys after the fact. So thanks for coming up.
So if you are looking for a game-by-game breakdown of Motor City Mayhem 2025, hosted by Steve, go check out The Coolant Pod on your favorite HPG provider.